Wolfgang. Are you sick of this name yet? Oh my god. This dude has gone on such a journey of discovery. I can't think of any character that has had such a controversial rework in the history of this game, and I also can't think of a character that's received so much attention following their rework. But yeah, as of the March Quality of Life beta, he's been going through some really interesting changes, and I thought it might be a good time to sort of take a look at the character, where he sits right now, and talk about how we could possibly make him where we want him to be in terms of abilities. And before I start, I just want to say I am so unbelievably impressed with the team over at Klei. They have spent so much time and love, presumably, on this character, and they have taken so much care to make sure that the players that play Wolfgang will eventually be happy with the character, and I got a lot of respect for the team. That's all I gotta say. So let's talk about what happened with the Wolfgang rework, the initial one. First of all, he lost his innate speed boost from being mighty. So you can't get that speed boost on day one as a result of being mighty. That is no more. The other real considerable thing is that he lost this mechanic of his mightiness being tied directly to his hunger. So now it's a part of this mini-game that Wolfgang plays in order to maintain his mightiness instead of just eating a bunch of food. So now when Wolfgang's in mighty form, he gets a flat 2x damage modifier, and it's not on a sliding scale the way it used to be with his hunger. So if his hunger, before the rework, if his hunger was completely full, he got the 2x, but as soon as it started going down, it would go down to like 1.9x, 1.8x, all the way down to normal Wolfgang. The rework also gave Wolfgang additional perks for being mighty outside of fighting, such as being able to move heavy objects, being able to row faster, work faster, being able to carry a piggyback without the speed reduction. I think most players were cool with the changes, but there was a surprisingly large group of players that were unhappy with the rework, and I ran a poll. I think I got like 40% of people that participated said that they think it would have been worth the time to reapproach the rework and spend time making the character even better. That's a huge margin. So we're currently in the beta for the March Quality of Life update, and Wolfgang is getting another pretty serious workover. So one of the most significant changes they just made is that they added a bunch of new methods for Wolfgang to build his mightiness up and also to keep his mightiness once it got up. So for example, you gain mightiness now by attacking, you gain mightiness by chopping and mining, you gain mightiness by rowing on the ocean. How amazing is that? And also when you walk around with the dumbbell, your mightiness is basically paused. So the flip side of this mechanic is that Wolfgang was losing mightiness when he got hit, and this loss of mightiness was not really affected by any armor that Wolfgang was wearing. It was based solely on like the base damage of the incoming attack. Now, personally, I thought this was a pretty good mechanic. It basically rewarded Wolfgang for actively fighting, but at the same time, it discouraged him from being a full-on tank. So it made him a character who still very much excelled at fighting, but it also added this upkeep cost to boss fights if Wolfgang decided to just, swing away and start taking damage. And I like that a lot because it made the strategies for each boss fight a little more unique to Wolfgang, instead of just being, the same strategy you'd use as any other character, just easier. I also think this mechanic was very much in line with the intent of the rework. They left a note on the Wolfgang rework, the initial one, where they said they approached Wolfgang in a way that would focus his role and improve on the character fantasy rather than just doing what he already did but better. So I thought this Mightiness Loss was very much in line with the character fantasy of a man who pretends to be strong and brave, but is in fact scared by small animals, and when it comes down to it, he's just a big teddy bear. So it made sense that for someone like that to take damage, to lose a little bit of mightiness. I was a little concerned that this Mightiness Loss was a bit overtuned, because in certain boss fights, it's weird to have to take a lot of time off to lift a gem bell and restore your mightiness, especially in more fast-paced fights such as, Ant Lion and Fuel Weaver, where you can't really back off from the fight without losing the fight, basically. Now, you could restore your mightiness faster with the dumbbell, but if you're changing forms, you went through this awkward animation, which didn't really work out in the middle of a boss fight. So I suggested that maybe the mightiness loss could be tuned down just a little bit so that you could more easily maintain your mightiness during boss fights if you're actively fighting. Instead, Klei released a new hotfix a couple days ago where they completely removed this mechanic. So now Wolfgang does not lose mightiness when hit at all. So during boss fights, your mightiness is going to stay very comfortably topped off. You don't have to do any sort of work to keep your mightiness up now. And honestly, I think that change by itself makes the current Wolfgang an even more powerful fighter than he was before the hotfix, before the rework. I mean, we're talking no maintenance at all during boss fights. He's just attacking and healing, and his mightiness stays exactly where it is. It's just free 2 times damage at this point. But the flip side of this change is pretty significant, because now Wolfgang's passive mightiness loss has been increased a ton. And ironically, that drain is entirely dependent on Wolfgang's hunger. When his hunger is 75% or higher, he now loses 48 mightiness per day. Before this patch, Wolfgang with a full belly could remain mighty for over 6 minutes, and now it's about 4 minutes. But the real punisher is when he gets down to about 150 hunger, he starts losing 96 mightiness per day, and that's a 3 times increase from before this patch. And in this form, he's going to go from 100 mightiness to 75 in about 2 minutes. And below that threshold, it just gets even more punishing. So I noticed when I was playing Wolfgang that I really wasn't normal Wolfgang all that often, because if my hunger was at a place where I was losing mightiness really fast, then I would go quickly all the way down to Wimpy Wolfgang. So in a lot of ways, Wimpy Wolfgang just became the new default form of Wolfgang. The normal form is just like a transitional form that you will only be in for like a minute or 2 minutes before going Wimpy. So in effect, we've come full circle back to a character who needs to keep his hunger above 75% in order to have any hope of not losing his mightiness completely after a few minutes. Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, you added a bunch of benefits to being mighty outside of battle, but while you're just walking around, then you're going to be losing mightiness at an alarmingly high rate. So yeah, let's say I'm walking around with the piggyback. I'm going to have to stop more often to raise my mightiness back up, and that's going to negate the benefit of being mighty while wearing a piggyback. So if it stays in this form, then I could see myself defaulting to Wimpy Wolfgang and just traveling around with either a backpack or a Krampus sack, and then, just get my mightiness up for fights, because it's become less feasible to keep his mightiness up outside of fights. So yeah, I have some concerns about the current state of Wolfgang. I think they found a formula that worked really well. They just needed to do a couple of minute adjustments, and it was going to be in a really good place. But now that I've given my criticisms, let me offer 2 solutions for how we can make the character a little bit better. My first choice would be to just restore the previous passive mightiness loss and restore the mightiness lost when hit. But maybe we could retune that loss in a way that's slightly less punishing during boss fights. Maybe the loss could be mitigated with damage reducing armor, and that change would make sense to me. It would sort of emulate the way Walter loses sanity when he gets hit, and that loss is mitigated by armor. But if the mightiness loss from getting hit is not coming back, and it sounds like Klei decided it was unnecessary, so I find that very likely, then I would hope for a very serious retuning of the passive sanity loss. Wolfgang's got a lot of good reasons to maintain his mightiness outside of battle, especially in winter, and especially if he plans to walk around with the piggyback. Or, if he plans to get into a fight incidentally. I think that on a full belly, Wolfgang deserves to stay mighty for close to a full day. Asking him to pump twice a day on a full belly seems a bit excessive, and it's going to discourage players from utilizing his mighty abilities outside of battle. Yeah, at the end of the day, I think we're still in a much better place than we were before the initial rework. I just think with a little bit of extra tweaking, we can really make this character excellent again. Better than the original Wolfgang in so many ways. I just want to make sure that we're not falling back on some of the same issues that we had with the original Wolfgang, and I hope that we don't throw out the baby with the bathwater when it comes to new mechanics. I think they're good mechanics. Klei's doing a great job. We just need to adjust them a little bit to get them where they feel balanced. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you think of these ideas. Feel free to tell me that I'm completely off my rocker. I wanted to get this off my chest. A lot of people have been asking about my opinion of the new Wolfgang changes, so I just wanted to get this down on video while it was fresh in my head. Yep. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.